You're listening to the FM Rainbow channel of All India Radio Mumbai on 107.1 MHz. Welcome to Celebrating Life with FM Rainbow. My name is Fali Singara and welcome to our special show. In the studio with us today is a gentleman whose life is truly an extraordinary one. He's one of India's most loved media personalities. Mr. Ameen Sayani is an award-winning broadcaster, entertainer, and an advertising legend. He paved the way for radio broadcasting in India and is considered one of the world's most legendary presenters. The voice behind India's most memorable campaigns, he has been called the golden voice of radio. For his outstanding contribution in the field of arts and his services to the nation, the Government of India honoured him with the Padma Shri in 2009. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege having you with us today on the show, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Celebrating Life with FM Rainbow.
Fali, I thank you for thanking me. And let me tell you that today my nerves are trembling with pleasure because I am speaking today on the English section of All India Radio. This is my Janma Bhumi, my birthplace of broadcasting.
Congratulations, sir, as we celebrate your magnificent legacy in broadcasting. Over the last 7 decades, you have been one of the most revered and much-loved voices on radio. Could you tell us how your fantastic journey on radio began?
This is where I started my work. From the age of, you know how much? About 7 years old, when my elder brother Hamid, who was an excellent broadcaster, a very famous broadcaster on the English service of All India Radio, he told me once, I was very good at plays and things in English and Gujarati also, not so much in Hindi, because the first school that I went to was a Gujarati school, with English also taught there. So he told me once, look, Ameen, you have been going into Gujarati and you're doing a lot of work in English, and I've seen you acting in some of your school plays, and I think you'll make a fairly good broadcaster. So would you like to come to the station today? Because something special has arrived there today. I said, oh, something special? What's that, Hamid Bhai? He said, look, we've gotten a wire recorder in one of the studios of All India Radio, and I'd like to show you that. So I said, all right, Hamid Bhai, I'll definitely come. So I went with him and he took me to one of these studios and he took out from the corner a wire recorder and he said, all right, now Ameen, I'm going to start this wire recorder and I would like you to narrate something. Say anything, recite a poem or whatever you want. So I said, there is one poem which I liked very much, which I'll recite. Okay, you can start if you wish. So he started the recorder and I narrated in my squeaky 7-year-old voice. If I were Lord of Tartary, myself and me alone, my bed would be of ivory, of beaten gold my throne. And I read the whole poem and then I said, okay, Hamid Bhai, now whatever you want to do, go ahead. That was the end of the poem. So he wound the wire recorder back and then he said, now I'm going to start it. And he started playing it. I said, wait a minute, what do you mean? What did you say? He said, I'm going to play you your own voice. I said, you're going to play me my own voice? You can make me hear my own voice? He said, yes, that's what you're going to do. And he started it and I was listening to it spellbound because my voice was quite squeaky. I was just 7 years old and wire recorder output was also squeaky. So my voice was even more squeaky when it was played on the loudspeaker. And after the poem finished, he stopped the wire recorder and he turned to me and said, well, Ameen, how did you like your voice? I said, Hamid Bhai, it sounded terrible. So he said, it sounded terrible? I said, yes. He said, well, then in that case, you will have to be very vigilant in your life. We will have to study the language properly and you'll have to improve your voice to be able to become a good broadcaster. But you're beginning next week. I said, next week? He said, yes, I'm going to start you off on a children's program. So he started me off in a children's program. Gradually, I started in school broadcasts. And also I started acting in plays, getting the roles of little boys in major plays that they did. And so slowly he started giving me individual things to do. Plays, of course, I did quite a few. And then slowly, I began to improve and became quite a good broadcaster. And later on, well, I did adult plays also. Not too much later, but because it was just in 3 or 4 or 5 years I picked up English broadcasting. And so from the age of 7 to the age of 12 or so, I was doing English broadcasting. And that's how I began. And that's why I'm feeling absolutely fabulous today in this studio of the English section of All India Radio. In my early days, since I was an English broadcaster, I used to even sing English songs. I was very fond of all English ballads of those days. And there were 3 songs especially which I was very fond of, which later on were taken on by the Indian films and made into Hindi film songs. One was that very famous song, "Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, thou art lost and gone forever, dreadful sorrow, Clementine." Now, before I sing any more, let me first tell you that at one time I was a great singer. I used to sing, as I've told you, for all my school choirs. But then one day I lost my voice, as most people do when they're growing up. And when I lost my voice, I couldn't sing at all. And then whenever I tried to sing, somebody used to come and whack me on my back and say, "Hey, besure, bankar, kaiko bore karta hai." And one friend of mine gave me a title. He said, "You know something? Ameen Sayani is the man with the atom bomb voice. Every time he begins to sing, the entire audience disappears." So I'll just sing one line. But you know what song was made in Hindi on that Clementine song? That was "Ae dil hai mushkil jeena yahan, zara hatke zara bachke, ye hai Bombay meri jaan."
Could you take us back to those early days of All India Radio and Indian broadcasting and share with us your memories of the same? What were those early shows like?
At the age of 85, almost 86, which I am now, my memory has become a sieve. I don't remember very well. I remember events that moved my life, but detailed memories I'm a little doubtful about. So I won't be able to tell you a lot about my old memories, but I can tell you that some of the broadcasters whom I met there and whom I heard in All India Radio were terrific. Now, incidentally, All India Radio was designed on the lines of the BBC, and therefore it had no commercials then. And incidentally, All India Radio, since it had a number of languages in which people were broadcasting, it became one of the finest broadcasting organizations in the world, on par with the BBC. And I may even say that, well, in some cases, because of the multilingual asset, went many leaps and bounds ahead of the BBC also. So I was happy that I was one of those little boys who had joined this big organization in which the greatest speakers, producers, writers of all languages of India, Hindi, Urdu, Tamil, Marathi, Malayalam, the whole works. Everybody came here, and all these leaders in their languages were considered a great privilege to come to All India Radio and be able to speak. And that is why we had such beautiful programs, especially the plays, the news items, the discussions. They were absolutely fabulous in all languages.
Now you're known to be such a prolific writer, producer, and announcer. Your vast body of work includes over 54,000 radio programs and 19,000 spots and jingles. What fueled that sensational creativity?
There were many things that did that. The first thing, of course, was my brother Hamid's training. The second was Bapu and my mother's and father's nationalism. The great leaders of those days, apart from Gandhi, there were so many others like Maulana Azad and Vallabhbhai Patel and so many others who inspired me to be a nationalist. And my New Era education and other school education, college education, which helped me to realize that the God of all religions was one. And this made me realize that India was probably the greatest country in the world because all religions have flourished here. There are people of all religions, all languages. So many languages are there, beautiful languages. And so many cultures are here. So, and with the British rule of 400 years, English became so popular here. So then we became part of the world. So India is perhaps the greatest country in the world, according to me.
Your family had a close association with Mahatma Gandhi. You know, in our previous interaction many years ago, you had shared that your dream was to be an English announcer, and you did become one. But it was Gandhiji who inspired you to learn Hindustani and become a broadcaster in Hindi. Could you tell us about that?
My grandfather, maternal grandfather, was Dr. Rajab Ali Patel, who was a very good doctor. He was the main doctor of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who was one of our greatest leaders, and he was a great leader of the Hindu-Muslim unity idea. And of course, Gandhiji was our main mentor, and Gandhiji was very, very deeply connected with my family because my father's uncle, Mr. Rahmatullah Sayani, was Gandhiji's mentor. Mr. Rahmatullah Sayani was one of the only Indian partners of a British legal firm. It was called Payne, Gilbert and Sayani. Payne and Gilbert still exists, by the way. And he was the one who took Gandhiji abroad to South Africa and helped him in his legal development also. So Gandhiji knew our family very well, and my mother, Mrs. Kulsum Sayani, was very deep into education, spreading of education and literacy, especially among the underprivileged women of India. And so Gandhiji was very fond of her. He treated her like his daughter. And Gandhiji wanted that when we became independent, India should have a national language which would be simple Hindustani, not clished Hindi, not difficult Hindi, no difficult Urdu, but a simple Hindustani which the entire Indian public would be able to understand without any difficulty at all. And so Gandhiji told my mother that, look, Kulsum, I want you to start a fortnightly journal. It should be published in 3 scripts. The 3 scripts would be the 3 scripts which were very prevalent in the greater Bombay of those days, which was the Devanagari script, which is the script for Hindi as well as Marathi, the Gujarati script, and the Urdu scripts. So he said, you publish and edit this thing at home, and I'll get it printed in a lithopress. And a number of very good Urdu and Hindi writers used to contribute to this magazine in 3 versions, 3 separate scripts, separate versions. But in each version, line to line, the language was the same, simple Hindustani. Incidentally, Gandhiji was very, very, very dedicated to this Hindustani. He also had a Hindustani Prachar Sabha. In the All India Congress Committee, that matter was taken up, whether Hindi or Hindustani should be the national language. And just by one casting vote, the president's casting vote, Hindi became the national language and not Hindustani. And Gandhiji was very upset about that. So that's why he had called my mother to start this magazine. Now, when this fortnightly magazine started, I joined the magazine as a peon. I didn't know Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati I knew the script very well. Hindi, Urdu I was a bit, I knew how to read it, but it was not very good. But I joined as a peon, filling in registers, folding papers, writing addresses, stamping the papers and all that. The journal was called Rahbar. Rahbar is an Urdu word which means Patha Nirdeshak or Patha Pradarshak, which means the guide. So that is how I started my Hindustani. And bit by bit, my Hindustani improved. But it improved mainly in writing, not in speaking. And it improved such a lot that I started writing for Rahbar. And what I most admired in Rahbar was the Asan Urdu Shairi section and the Saral Hindi Kavita section. So I became very fond of Hindi and Urdu poetry. But what happened just after independence? A thing which shattered me completely, which was Gandhiji's assassination at one of his prayer meetings. I had been earlier to one of his prayer meetings, and it was really something that used to raise one's soul. Beautiful prayer meeting. He used to call people from every religion, to come and give a little bit of the... And it was there that I, in my multi-religious mind, grew. So all these different religions came into my heart, and I became a truly Indian citizen. So when Gandhiji was murdered, I said, look, now my great Bapu has gone. Now if I don't become a Hindi broadcaster, I will have failed in my love for Gandhiji and for India. So as soon as I finished my senior Cambridge examination from Sindhiya School, Gwalior, I came back to Bombay, went straight to All India Radio and told them, look, sir, you know me as an English broadcaster, but now I want to become a Hindi broadcaster. So take my audition and give me some work in Hindi.
As the host of Binaka, or Sibaka as it was later known, Geet Mala, you, sir, were the nation's tastemaker as you counted down each week the most popular songs for over 40 years. Now across the world you had lakhs and lakhs of listeners tuning in. Could you tell us about that show? How did you get involved with Geet Mala?
There was an American living in Bombay who saw a great opportunity of using Radio Ceylon as a commercial service. So he went there and he took from them the agency, sole agency for India for Radio Ceylon. When he did that, he wanted somebody to look after the programming side. And his eyes fell on Hamid, my brother, because my brother Hamid was not only a great broadcaster, he was also a great advertising expert. He had studied advertising in big firms like J. Walter Thompson and L.A. Stronach. So he said, Hamid, you come, you set up the program wing of the agency, which is called Radio Advertising Services, for the commercial service of Radio Ceylon, and start. When he came as the programming chief of Radio Ceylon, I ran to him and said, Hamid bhai, you are my guru in broadcasting, so please let me speak in Hindustani. I don't want to just keep speaking in English. So he said, all right, fine, but I can't just put you into programs. I've got some very good Hindi people like Manmohan Krishna, Bal Govind Srivastava, and many others from films also. They are coming in, Raj Khosla for instance, and they're working on Hindi programs. So first you go into the Hindi programming studios and you keep listening to those programs and try to improve your accent, your pronunciation, and we'll definitely then see what can be done. So the first program that I started attending was Ovaltine Phulwari. This was a program in which new singers used to come and sing. And then they were given a chance in the films if they did very well indeed in Phulwari. 3 great singers came through that program. One was Sudha Malhotra, then there was Mahendra Kapoor and Kamal Barot. These 3 came through this and became very great singers. So I used to go every week there and listen to these people sing. Because I was very fond of music myself, singing. I was in both my school choirs. So I started going there, and one day what happened was suddenly Mr. Srivastava, who was the producer, not the presenter. It was presented by Manmohan Krishna. So Mr. Srivastava came on the stage and said, look, I'm so sorry, but I can't proceed because my commercial announcer who speaks the announcing has not come, and he is giving me a lot of problems. So I'm going to see if any one of you would like to come and speak today. So he looked around, then his eyes fell on me and he said, hey Ameen, come here. I want to see if you can maybe become the announcer for Ovaltine. So I was absolutely flabbergasted, and I ran and to him and said, yes sir, give me the script. And again, like when I'd done for All India Radio, I took that script for Ovaltine Phulwari and read it out as if some great political leader was asking people for his votes. And I again shouted and was like a stage actor and waved my hands. And Mr. Srivastava put his hands on his ears and said, hold it, please. Look, ye kushti ka akhada nahi hai. This is not a wrestling match. This is a broadcasting house. Now, I'm just talking in English. He was speaking in Hindi, of course. He said, look, I want you to read gently, properly, like a human being. Come on, read it again. So then I said, yes sir, I will do so. And I read out it a little softly. So he said, look, your accent has still got a little bit of Gujarati and English, but if you promise to improve, I will take you on as the commercial broadcaster of Phulwari. I said, fine. But then suddenly I realized that this was commercial radio. So I asked him, I'm so happy, sir, that you're giving me commercials for Ovaltine Phulwari, but this is commercial radio, and how much will you pay me? So he looked at me and he said, grimly, he said, pay you? You're mad? All you're going to do is get one small baby tin of Ovaltine every week. And that's how I started broadcasting. I think it was that one small baby tin of Ovaltine that I got that kept me a little energetic all these years. And, well, what happened was that when Ovaltine was going on, Phulwari, suddenly there was an announcement in my office, Radio Advertising Services, that Ceylon has sent a word that Siva Gaigi would like to start a program in Hindi on Radio Ceylon. Now, they already had a Binaka hit parade in English, but they wanted a slightly similar program in Hindi. But they said, look, not quite a hit parade, but we would like a kind of a competition. A competition in which there would be a prize of 100 rupees, and we would like to have a competition in which good songs, 7 or 8 songs, are played in half an hour, and we ask the audience to rearrange those songs in their own order of popularity. We will get a final list made, a correct list of popularity, and whichever individual list comes close to or corresponds with that list will get a prize or will share a prize of a jackpot of 100 rupees. So we want to know if any of you, and this is the office telling us, any of you would like to take this up. Let us tell you that the payment will be 25 rupees a week, and whoever takes this up will have to script the program, produce the program, speak the program, and judge the entries, whichever number of how many entries come. Now they said that in the English program we get 300 to 400 letters every week, and so you'll have to go through that and work out the winning list every week. There were lots of good announcers there. They said, what nonsense. For 25 rupees you want to speak, write, produce, and then judge all the mail. This is ridiculous. We don't want it. But I raised my hands. I said, I'm getting only 1 tin of Ovaltine. So 25 rupees would be at least 100 rupees a month. So I'll do it. So I took that program. For the first program, everything that Hamid Bhai had taught me, everything about nationalism that my Bapu had taught me, I put all of that into my first script. And in those days, we had learnt from All India Radio that we had to write scripts and speak. Now today I'm speaking without a script, but in those days we were not supposed to do it. So I wrote the script, I linked all the songs, I linked up the commercials, I linked up some jokes, I linked up some poetry, and made a nice script and recorded it, mixed the songs and heard it. It sounded nice to me. But then I prayed to God before it was sent by air to Radio Ceylon from Bombay. And I prayed to God, please God, they're getting 300 to 400 letters. Now, even if you don't give me 300 to 400 letters, at least give me 100 letters so that I live up to my brother's expectation and I don't fail in my first Hindi work that I'm getting. So the program was sent to Ceylon. It went on the air. And when it went on the air, I started listening to the program and I said, well, it's sounding not bad. It's quite nice. But now, let's hope when the letters come, I get at least 100 letters in. And the letters started pouring in. It was heaps and heaps of letters started coming in. And you know how many letters totally came for the first program?
Over 9,000 letters.
9,000, and everybody jumped with joy. I also jumped with joy. I said, oh boy, my program has got 9,000 letters. And then I held my head and sat down. And I said, but I have to see through all these 9,000 letters myself. Fortunately, my office helped me, and I had some college friends who also helped me. It was successful. And then the letters started growing every week. And by the end of 1 year, the weekly mail rose to almost 60,000 a week. By which time all of us got fed up. Why? Because each letter had to be preserved for 3 weeks. because if somebody said, look, I'd send the correct list, but you never gave me the prize. So that we'd have to go through all those letters again, check them again. So there was no place in the office to sit. All our tables and chairs were full of letters. So finally the office got fed up and said, look, they talked to the clients also. They said, look, the program is a hit. Now let us turn it into a hit parade. We'll work out how to get the popularity list, but let's not have letters coming in. So they agreed. So it became a 1 hour program instead of half hour. And though there was no prize, the letters still came, about 3,000-4,000 every week used to come in. And a lot of questions were there, and a lot of interesting stuff came in, a lot of people talking about it and all that. And it became one of the most avidly and widely heard program in the world. According to many well-established organizations which used to assess popularity, they said that the listenership within about 3 or 4 years had risen to almost 20 crores all over the world.
That's amazing, sir. And could you give us your famous opening from the Binaka and Sibaka Geet Mala?
Well, I used to say, Behno और भाइयों, आपको अमीन सायानी का नमस्कार. आइए आज शुरू करें गीत माला का प्रोग्राम और देखें कि क्या है गीतों की लोकप्रियता.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, sir. And as you said, there were some unique moments in Indian cinema. For example, in one of the hit Bollywood movies of the 60s, Julie, there was actually an English song that became very, very popular.
Yes, so many other things about Julie that I'd like to briefly tell you about. A, that the music was by Rajesh Roshan, the son of the great music director Roshan, who was like a brother to me and who was one of my greatest favorites of film music. And then, as you said, it was an English song that was there in a Hindi film, My Heart is Beating, and it was Preeti Sagar who sang it.
Our listeners might not be aware, sir, that Mr. Amitabh Bachchan had nurtured a dream of becoming a radio presenter. You know, there's a famous story that Mr. Bachchan had tried to meet you in the 1960s at All India Radio as he wanted to become an announcer. Now, Mr. Bachchan failed to get the audition with you, so he went on to become an actor instead. And what an actor he's become. Could you tell us about that story?
Now, let me tell you one thing, that I had never heard Amitabh Bachchan at all. He hadn't become a film star. He was wanting to enter this field, and he said, first let me try and go to the firm, which is the birthplace of commercial radio. That was my office. And let us get an audition from Ameen Sayani. And then I want to take a few hints from him and try and get into this world of broadcasting. And he came to my office. Now, in those days, I was doing about 7 to 8 to 10 program recordings a week, and sometimes about 3 or 4 a day. And I used to be in the studio right from the morning to the evening. Even my lunch I used to carry to my studio. And there, when the recorders was mixing and all that, I used to listen and eat my sandwiches quickly. So I didn't have even time to go out to the back to my room. So one day my secretary came running in and said, sir, one tall chap has come to see you. I said, yes, what about him? She said, he says his name is Amitabh Bachchan. I said, Amita is a girl's name. Is he a boy or a girl? So she said, no, he's a boy, he's a tall chap. So he wants an audition. I said, look, tell him I work the whole day unless you take appointment 1 week earlier, and I'll give you the time and I'll definitely hear you. And if you've got a good voice, it'll be my pleasure to present you on radio and let you earn from here. So take an appointment and come. But he never took an appointment. He just used to come without an appointment and want to barge in and audition. I said, look, I can't do that. Whoever this man is, you tell him I'm sorry, I won't be able to do that. And so he stopped coming to me. Slowly, he went into the films, became a film star. And the first time that I heard him was when he was already a film star. I was supposed to do the publicity for the film Aanand, in which he was playing a very good role, doing a very good role with Rajesh Khanna. And couldn't do it. I was not well the day he had kept up showing. So, nevertheless, the producer called me for the premiere. And when I went to the premiere and I saw this tall chap with Rajesh Khanna. Rajesh was very popular then. But this tall chap with his beautiful voice, his beautiful accent, and acting was very good and very dynamic. I said, my God, this fellow is fantastic. And I'm going to adopt him as my younger brother. And I'm going to try and get as many films of his to publicize, because this fellow is going to become very popular. And I will become popular as the radio publicity in charge of Amitabh Bachchan. And actually, I got most of his big films to publicize, and he became very popular. Later on, when he had become very popular, and I was interviewing him once, and I was praising his voice before I started questioning him. And he said, "Ek minute, why are you praising my voice?" I said, "Because you have a lovely voice, Sami." And he said, No, but do you know something?" I said, "No." He said, I had gone for an audition to All India Radio in English as well as in Hindi. English also he speaks excellently. But in Hindi also, and he was the son of Harivansh Rai Bachchan, the great Hindi poet. He said, All India Radio failed me in English as well as Hindi. I said, my God, that is what happened to me in Hindi. And now that I hear that, I am feeling grateful. Because if they could fail you, Amitabh Bachchan, in English and Hindi, who was I? Ameen Sayani and nobody. And they naturally would have failed me if I was not very good. So that's how I got in. But also, there was another incident. I became the president of an organization called RAPA, Radio and TV Advertising Producers Organization. And we had our annual awards function, and I rang up Amitabh. By that time, I had become very friendly with him. I had interviewed him also. So I said, Amit, I'm having this program, awards function of RAPA, and I want you to become the chief guest. Will you come? He said, you tell me to come, and I will definitely come. And he came. And he came with 2 bodyguards with machine guns. And he came there, and when it came to the point of the chief guest's speech, he stood up and said that, do you know what happened? He said, I went to this organization which specialized in commercial radio, and nobody heard me. And that is why today you see me as a film star. So I was shocked. I said, what is this? My wife was there in the function, so I quietly spoke to her and I said, what the hell is he saying? We were the only function. I never met him there. She said, look, you're mad. This fellow came, your secretary came to you and told you Amitabh Bachchan is there, and never bothered to listen to him or audition him. I said, but my secretary kept saying Amita, and I didn't know Amitabh Bachchan. The name also I didn't know because it was not well known there. So, oh damn, that means Amitabh Bachchan came to me and I didn't hear him. I was shocked and I was heartbroken. But suddenly I looked up and said, thank God I didn't hear him. Because if I had heard him, I would have fallen in love with his voice and would have given him lots of things to do. And my clients would have said, look, Ameen Saab, now you've spoken enough. We've got the lovely new voice, Amitabh Bachchan. Let him speak instead of you. And he would have taken away all my business and I would have been on the streets. So I was very happy that whatever happened, happened. Amitabh became more and more close to me as our friendship improved, and I started doing a lot of film publicity, feature film programs for him. But our greatest friendship was when I went with him and Kalyanji Anandji for the Amitabh Bachchan show all over America, Canada and Europe, and also the West Indies. There was a song, now he used to sing there in those shows, he used to sing some of the songs that other singers had sung for him. And one was Khai Ke Paan Banaras Wala.
From the original Dawn.
From the original Dawn. And he used to sing it himself and dance to it. And everybody used to love it. He used to sing quite well.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us, sir.